Hey there, this is Katherine Cartwright. Welcome. I am sharing some inspiration from the Mega Stamps kit. I'm jumping right in here. This is from Diamond Press. There's a video I made on Diamond Press. I'll link it in the description that shows all of the contents, all the stamps. I make a card in that one. But since it's a mega kit, there was no way I was going to stop making cards. There's just too much to do with this. So this is just kind of a follow-up video. I am stamping on a sticky note here, one of the ornaments that is so cute. I wanted to do kind of a masking technique here. So I have stamped the ornament. I'm jumping right in. So the mega kit, if you don't know about it, go look at in the description, and I'll link it. I'll try and link it in the top of the video too, so you can go see all of the contents. There are so many stamps. It is unbelievable. There's stamp pads, there are markers. It's just chock full of stuff. So you definitely want to check that out. That's available over at hsn.com right now from Diamond Press. I'm using the card bases. There are card bases included in this kit, and I'm just putting the card base directly into my stamp positioner, and then I've got the ornament stamp, which is just beautiful. The second I saw this, I knew I wanted to try and create a card with it, and so I'm just getting it into place, and then I'm going to ink this up with the black waterproof ink. There are 4 stamp pads in the Mega Stamp kit that have an array of colors that are great colors for stamping. And they're waterproof too. I love them. They're great for using with alcohol inks and your markers. Okay, so I've got my first one stamped here, and I'm going to lay that down, and then I'm going to put my next ornament. I wanted to have a trio of them. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. I wasn't really sure if it was going to work out. That's how it is in card making. Sometimes you try things and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Okay. But I love the little bow on top of this ornament too. It's just beautiful with the little ornament with the string tied on there. It's just so cool. And so I'm going to ink up the second one, and you can see that with the masking with that piece of sticky paper, and I'm using the stamp chamois. There's a stamp chamois also. There's so many things included in this kit. I'm probably going to leave something out, but there's this stamp chamois in there that you can use in between cleanup. And then I'm going to stamp my third one. I'm just going to turn this because the stamp is going to need to go off of my paper since I'm stamping directly onto the card base. And the card bases are A2 in size, so they are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay. And then I'm going to lay this down. I'm just making sure I kind of moved it over a little bit since it's a teeny bit small, just to make sure that I'm covering where I don't want the stamp to go. All right, and I think it's fairly in order there, and so I'm going to stamp this for my third ornament. Okay, and again, in love with this ink pad. The colors are great, but particularly having a great black ink is awesome. All right. So this is ready to be colored, and I'm keeping it very simple here. So I love the way that turned out. I wanted the ornament in the front, and I'm doing some kind of non-traditional colors. The day I was filming this, I really just decided I wanted to try some different colors. I didn't want to have my traditional red and green. So like I said, sometimes you get ideas and they work well, and sometimes they don't. But I ended up being happy with the way this color palette turned out. So I've got kind of this it's kind of a blush pink, an orange, and then a yellow. So definitely non-traditional here colors, but I thought it would be fun. So I'm just going to finish inking up, coloring in this last ornament, and then I've got the green I wanted to do for my bow and the hook on here. And then I'm going to bring in a few Copic markers of gray that I wanted to do because I wanted to keep the top of the ornament very neutral, so it did not take away from the color of the ornament. I really wanted the ornament to be the centerpiece. So I'm just using some basic grays. I think I used C1 and C4 to add a little bit of shadow. So here is one of the many stamps, but I used one of the sheets in here, and Merry Christmas is what I'm going to use. I love the font on this stamp. So I'm just going to ink this up in black. I wanted it to really stand out. I could see heat embossing this in gold, using some of the different color markers, doing this in gold, just so many ideas come to mind. But this is just one really quick and easy way that you could mass produce these. I'm going to add just a little bit of sparkle to my ornament. I had some of these clear gemstones on my desk, and I thought that would be a nice way to add just a little bit of something extra to this card. But it's pretty much, one-dimensional. You could keep it one-dimensional for mailing, but you get a lot of bang here on this with these beautiful, just two little stamps that I used out of the ton that are included in the kit. All right, so that's the first card, but I just couldn't stop. I really couldn't stop. So I've got my card base in there again, and I am taping it down. You've seen me use some of the sticky tape to do it down. My little grip mat is very dirty, so it's not super sticky. And since I've got a card base, it's a little bit thicker, and so I wanted to make sure that it stays in place. They have these really cute little light bulbs in here, a light bulb stamp. And I know I want to use that bright stamp that's also included. And so I just was putting that there for positioning because I don't want to go too high and have not enough space for my sentiment. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp another light bulb here. They are just so cute. I can remember, I always tell the story, but I remember as a child untangling the Christmas lights, the big, huge, I think they were C7s, or C9s. They were the biggest Christmas lights, and I can remember every holiday season as a youngster helping decorate, and my job was to untangle the lights, because if any of you remember those size lights when they were real, this would have been in the 70s, early 80s, there was no way to really store them, and they just got so tangled up. And I just can, every time I see a Christmas light, like a stamp like this, it takes me right back to that. So it just makes me smile, the days of untangling the Christmas lights. I am going to use some Diamond Press ink here. I'll list the colors in the description. And it has this awesome stamp that you can use to go back in there and stamp your inside of your light bulb if you want to. You could color it if you wanted to, but I love that they included the additional stamp shadow, I guess you could say, that goes inside. Beautiful to fill it in. So cute, and it has nice details on it with the little highlights on there. Super cute. Okay, so that one I think was crimson. And I'll link all the ink pads in the description because I can't remember all of them. And so I'm going to add this third one. So I've got a blue one, a red one, and then I'm going to pick another color here. I'm just kind of lining this up. It's really pretty easy to line it up, especially after you stamp it. You can really see where to put it. And I'm going to use a yellow here to finish this one out. Just so pretty. And this one's marigold, actually. I can see that one. All right, so I've got my my 3 light bulbs here that are ready to go, and then there is also, they included the matching, tip of the light, and I'm going to do that in a gray. Okay, and so let me just get that inked up, and I'm just checking my color because I wasn't exactly sure if that was the shadow that I wanted, and so it was a little bit darker. And so then I'm going to pick another one and see if I like that better. Okay, I think I'm going to do the lighter one. And I believe that is fog. And so that is perfect. And I think I put a little, yes, that worked great. And so I was very happy with that color. Sometimes you just don't know until you start stamping. But to me, it looks just like it would in real life. Okay, so let me finish stamping this off. And you can see how quick and easy these are. And I'm a stamper at heart. That's what really got me into card making, is stamping. So when I see big sets like this from Diamond Press, and they graciously sent this to me for me to use, and I can't stop using it, which I'm so thankful for, because like I said, I am a true stamper at heart. That is what I fell in love with card making. And so to be able to stamp cards like this, and they also include the card bases, which for me is just a huge home run, just delights me. Okay, and so I'm just trying to lay out my stamps here, loving this bright, and then I'm going to ink this up. I've got evergreen, and this one will go right in the middle, this nice bright sentiment. And I'm just going to clean up a little bit here. I got a little too much ink over there. I don't want to mess up this project. And then I can work on stamping the other sentiment. Okay, again, there are just so many sentiments. I know I keep going on and on and on, but it's just mega. That's all you can say. It's mega, mega, mega. All right, let me wipe this up. Okay, and now I am ready for the next sentiment. I'm going to go back here to Crimson, using that up, and that beautiful red ink. Hope your holidays are bright. How cute. So you can completely customize this with all of these different stamps. All right, I came back here and I used a little bit of marigold, and there was another stamp, a little star, kind of a starburst, and I went and stamped around with that. Okay, so that was the second card I made, and now I'm moving on out of Christmas. I'm using one of the jar. There's a little jar stamp, and then there's some stamps that go with it. There are pickles. I think there's an olive in there. Go back in the original video and you can see some of the details, but it is amazing. And I'm using another one of the ink pads, kind of the brown. I don't know if that's the actual name of it, but more of a brown tone for my jar. And then I'm just going to stamp that off just in the middle of my card base. Again, making this very easy by having the card bases included. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of the tape to hold down my card base. And then I've got the top of the jar, which is so cute. So the kind of, if you've ever seen or made jars, canned anything and put the little jars on there, sometimes you'll see them covered with a little bit of fabric. And so that's sort of what I was thinking of here, is this would be a little piece of fabric on here for the jar, and then you could tie it on there, so to speak, if you made it in real life. So I love how realistic these are, all of these stamps. They just did a great job designing all of this. Oh yeah, there's a pepper, there's an olive, pickles, cucumber, just a ton of things to finish your jar. So just with this one stamp sheet, I mean, I probably could make 10 cards that are completely different. So it's just amazing, all the things they've come up with. So this one, oh, and there's honeycomb too. I failed to mention that. That's what I'm going to actually focus on, is using the honeycomb. And so I'm going to come back here and add a little bit more of that ink, that same color that I used for the jar. And I'm going to stamp the lid so it has kind of the little lines that show the movement of the fabric, where you can see the fabric kind of has been tied together, so to speak, and so it has this movement to it. It's just amazing design work. And then I'm going to add another bit of honeycomb here. And of course, they have a fun bow to finish it off. Okay, so I'm going to take some green here and stamp my bow onto the top of that fabric. Look at that. Just with a few stamps, I have made a very realistic looking jar. Okay, and this is just one thing to fill it with. Like I said, there's a ton of other stuff to fill it with. All right, so I pulled out my Diamond Press watercolor. This was back on a while ago for today's special, and I am just going to kind of ink blend I'm working on some colors here of what I want to make, sort of to hopefully make some honey here for my jar. And so I'm just blending the yellow and the orange a little bit here, adding some water to hopefully get a nice blend that looks somewhat like honey. Okay, and this is not watercolor paper. I'm just using the card base in here, and you can see it works really well. So I'm just going to fill my jar up here. And you'll notice I can go over the honey with my watercolor because this ink is waterproof. Okay, so I've used Copic markers with this ink, and now I'm using watercolor, and I'm not having any problem with it. All right, so I'm just kind of laying this around, making maybe a little bit of darkness in places, a little bit of light, and just having fun with it. That's the fun part about watercolor, is it doesn't have to be perfect. All right. So I found, I pulled from my stash a little oval that I wanted to use with one of the stamps And so I'm just going to cut that out, and then I'm going to add one of the stamps from the kit on there. So I'm just pulling out kind of a little small oval. And then I've got my little stamp positioner. And so in the kit, you get this little small stamp positioner, which is just so cute. And I'm just going to tape it down just a little bit, and I've got my little circle in there. You could just tape it down directly, but I wanted to put the little circle in there. And I'm just kind of lining it up, and then I'm probably going to have to add a little tiny bit of it. There we go. Because I'm moving it all around. And then I'm going to add my sentiments on here. So, so, so cute. Perfect for your tiny little images. And then once I get it into place, I can go ahead and add that on there. There is an oval included. And while I was working with this, I was like, oh, this actually fits. So I just added this to my oval. I'm just going to move that just a little bit so that the oval fits the shape of my die cut. Okay, got that into position, and I'm going to start with that first, and then I'll come back and add in my sentiments. All right, and I'm going back to that same beautiful color here, the waterproof color, and I'm just going to add that onto my yellow because I thought the tones worked really, really well. And then just making sure I've got all of this, and the stamp positioner allows me to go back and fix anything that I may have made a mistake on. And it fits in there beautifully, these little sentiments, and you'll see what it says in just a second. It's so cute. And so again, same ink, just keeping that part simple. And this says, honey, and life is so much sweeter with you. So how cute is this? All right. So now I can add this to the front of my card, and I've got a sweet little jar of honey, but I couldn't stop because there are more stamps. So you can see that I went around and stamped, there was a kind of a little foliage piece, and I went around, I said, oh, it needs a little bit more. And so I went around and just stamped this around the edge of my card, and now I can add my little honey on there. Life is sweet, so much sweeter with you. Okay, but then I just can't stop. And then I decide, oh, I need a little bit more honeycomb in here because I really wanted to see it peeking out more. And so I'm just going to stamp a couple more in there to fill my jar up. And then I've got my sentiment on there. Okay, so that's my third card. All right. So I had a blast with this. Be sure and check this out over on hsn.com. I've got the links in the description. If you want to see the video of the unboxing and the other card I made, I'll link that in the description as well. So if you're interested, be sure and check it out. Happy crafting, and have a great day.